Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here. Hope you're happy, healthy and well. It is time for a new book review, and my apologies, it has been ages since my last review, simply because I've been busy reading and I've been busy, with life. But today's book review is going to be on Kazuo Ishiguro's Klara and the Sun, and no doubt you would have heard about this book and you would definitely have heard about this author. So today I'm just going to go and talk about how I found this book, the different lessons that I've learned, and I must admit I've come out with more questions than anything else. Now, you may have seen this book around simply because it is in many book clubs. It is quite a popular book and one that a lot of people are talking about. And as you can see, it is a library book here simply because it is going to be our February read for my local library. The book itself was published last year, and it is about a sentient bot, a bot called Klara, who likes to, well, she doesn't like, she observes the world around her. She's in a shop where we can glean that it is sometime in the near future, and she's in a shop with other bots, and these bots are bought for young people as their companions, as their friends, because we glean that in this future world, children are isolated at home and don't have much interaction except under, I guess, enforced circumstances with other children. So Klara is a certain type of bot called an AF, called an artificial friend. And I must admit, every time I kept reading AF, I kept reading it like someone who uses Australian slang, because when we say AF in our normal Australian slang, it's actually quite a bad way of describing something. So I kept thinking AF is artificial friend, and not the other bit. So Klara is a bot, and Josie is a young 14-and-a-half-year-old girl who is quite ill. And we don't know what her illness is about, but we can glean it as we read the book and what it may be due to. And so she sees Klara and says to her mum that she wants to have Klara as her friend, her artificial friend. And so Klara then goes to Josie's home, where she seems to observe a lot of what is happening in the home, also helping out Josie, but also observing Josie's interaction with her mother, the mother's interaction to the bot, the house cleaner's interaction to the bot, the interaction between Josie and Rick, her friend from next door. And so Klara is gleaning a lot of information, and the more she gleans, the more she understands. I think for me, as I read it, the more human she seems to become. But that was only my interpretation of it, or what I assumed humans should be feeling towards another human. And so throughout the book, it is all about how Klara wants to do everything possible to make Josie get better from her illness. And she seems to think that given that Klara is energized by the sun as a bot, she uses solar power, that somehow if she could pray or offer something to the sun, that the sun would then also help Josie. And there is also a story about how Klara made that assessment based on her observation of a homeless person in the street whom she had assumed had died, but the next day, on a sunny day, this homeless person became alive. He wasn't alive. To us humans, we'd know that he probably was just sleeping. But to a bot, I guess the different interpretations and observations of what they see would be different. Well, we assume. So the bot Klara also is not only is she sentient, but she's a, a particular brand of a bot that is a lot more caring, a lot more compassionate. Excuse me. And it's all about helping the child. And what we see is that over a period of time, Klara does end up helping Josie. And there's a whole heap of different stories in there, okay? But we're introduced to a whole heap of different characters, some bots and some humans. And for me, this book brought up a lot more questions than answers. But the questions were something that made me think long and hard after I finished the book. If you want to read a book that tells you why society got to that point, what exactly was the intention of these AFs, how the need to have these AFs in people's lives, and also why Josie was sick. And we could glean that she was sick because she was genetically engineered in some way. She was what's known as genetically uplifted, an operation where people, that society, can choose to uplift, to supplement, to insert some kind of modification into their children to make them smarter, and as a result have more success in their life. But society as a whole in this book is between the have and the have-nots, those who have chosen to go down a path of genetic engineering and those who have not. And then the distinctions between in society for those who have this, who are uplifted, and those who are not. And so there are a whole heap of different themes coming out in this book. And the themes for me was all about hope, the hope that we saw Klara praying, offering her life, I guess, to the sun, to support and help her child that she was looking after, Josie. It's all about love, the love between a human and a bot, the love between mother and child, the love between friends as well, and how love morphs and changes over time, and how there's different kinds of love as well. It is a very strongly themed book about loneliness, and we see loneliness from the parent who had also lost a child, which we assume through maybe her first child. And this is where I'm saying that there's a lot of questions in this book. So you kind of make assumptions for what has happened. That possibly her first child was also going through some kind of genetic modification and she didn't go through the operation and she passed away. So Josie also had to deal with a long lost sister and also grief from that, and grief from having lost her mum, who is also thinking about her sister. The other themes for me that I got out of this is what makes us human, and also gratitude, having thanks and giving thanks to what we have in our lives. Like I said, this book provided just so many more questions. I really wanted to know the significance of the building, this RPO building. And my assumption was that this building was where that genetic engineering had happened, or what it had started from. There was references to smoke and pollution, which then again I assume was a society or a world where it is polluted and there are still machines that make pollution, that block the sun, that then prevent the energizing happening of these bots. It is a world where why do they want to inject something into their own children to make them smarter? What got them down to that point in society where they felt that they had to compete and get ahead? And then those who have gone and done that are I guess the lepers of society, the new lepers of society. For me also, there is a question of, as I was reading this book, I actually started feeling sorry for Klara. And she's a bot. She was meant to make us feel this way. She was meant to have all this compassion, this empathy and this care. And I think to myself, man, as humans, why don't we have that? We should be like Klara. And yet there is a reference of the bots that came in after Klara were also a lot smarter and a lot more snidier, I guess, or cunning, and then humans didn't want that. And I thought to myself, that's interesting, isn't it? That they don't want copies of themselves, of all the bad traits that we have as humans, is now coming in bots. They don't want that, but they want the earlier version of the nice bots, the caring bots, the empathetic bots like Klara. So it really got me thinking that, you know, as humans, maybe there is a flaw in us that we're not using or showing the best things that makes us human: the empathy, the care, the compassion, the continual love, and how over time that love can change, or we can change as well. One of the most, you know, this spoiler alert here, one of the most, I guess, distressful things that I read in the book, and the ones that I really, really felt sorry for Klara, is over time, as Josie got better, that Klara wasn't needed anymore. And that got me thinking about all the tools and the equipment that we have in our life. And over time, you know, either they break down, or their use finishes, or they become out of date. And so we discard them. We put them in a cupboard, or we toss them out onto the pavement, hoping that the council can come and pick it up in the hard rubbish collection. But here is a bot who's left in a utility room, who talks, questions, who observes, and she's kept in a utility room. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, should I feel sorry for this bot? Would I do this to a human? No, I would not. But why would then I do it to a bot? But then we have these other snippets in the book where we see people kind of, you start to question them and you go, well, maybe because they are a bot, how else would you treat them? They're actually made for that. So we shouldn't really feel sorry for them, because they were made that way. They were made for a specific utility, for a specific purpose in mind. So then why are we treating them as such? And so these are the things that kind of made me think as I read this book, that, you know, we're actually at a point, this is quite a good book to read for the period of time that we are in now and today. And there are also references to a society that is becoming fraction, and a society where there is fascism, and where people are now actually separating themselves into communities and hiding themselves from each other. And so there's an ominous feeling to this book about kind of like I would say it's a dystopian future. It's not a future where it is positive, because we've got these bots who are out in the world, but they're within a society that is completely changing. And so I think this is a book for today's time, especially for today's time, as we get to see, I guess, how we're at a point in time here in 2022, 2023, where artificial intelligence is now being integrated into a lot of our work processes and a lot of our lives. And if you've been following the discussion online, and also the people who are using, like I am, ChatGPT, which is an artificial intelligence program that learns as you go, that you can ask it any question, and it basically creates responses, very well thought out responses, although you have to really kind of still go through it, makes you realize that we're at a point in society where things are going to change. And I believe Klara and the Sun is actually making us reflect and making us stop and look at those changes and what those impact of those changes would be. The things about the genetic modification, okay, maybe we're not genetically modified just yet, but we're already becoming, I guess, quantified in some way by having tools and technology that helps support our health or makes us improve ourselves in some way. So it won't be surprising in the near future that we might find these tools actually inserted into our skin, where we become kind of like part cyborg if it's not already happening. Alternatively, for those who may be incorporating AI or incorporating elements of new technology into their work, it is going to change the way we think and approach our work. So even though we might not have bots that kind of look human and feel human and act human, I think we're going to be getting there on that way. And then that brings up all sorts of ethical and moral issues about us as humans in society and how we act towards each other and how we work with these tools and technology in our lives and how it impacts society as a whole. So it's a bit of a long review, but these are kind of the lessons I got from Klara and the Sun and what I'll be sharing in our Glen Era book club when we have it in a couple of weeks. I'm interested in your thoughts. What did you think of Klara and the Sun? You know, Kazuo Ishiguro has written so many other books, and over the holidays, I also read another one of his, was Never Let Me Go, which was along the similar lines, but I didn't do a review on it. It is also another highly recommended book. So Klara and the Sun provided me with way more questions than answers. It is a book that made me really think long and hard about bots, about the future, about hope, about what makes us human. And it is a book that is highly worth reading and really delving into the themes that are so relevant today. All right then, thank you for listening and thank you for watching. Bye for now.